This is the incredible story of Tutankhamun, the boy king whose tomb unleashed what many call the Pharaoh's curse. But here's the mind-blowing question that still haunts archaeologists today. Was it really a curse, or something far more sinister? Before we unveil these shocking secrets, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Trust me, you don't want to miss the ancient mysteries we're about to reveal. Let's travel back in time to 1341 BC. Egypt is in absolute chaos. The previous pharaoh, Akhenaten, had done something no Egyptian ruler had ever dared. He tried to change the entire religion of Egypt. He forced people to abandon the worship of Amun and the traditional gods, commanding them to worship only one god called Aten. Now imagine the confusion and anger this created. Temples closed, priests lost their power. The people felt betrayed by their divine ruler. And then Akhenaten dies mysteriously, leaving Egypt in complete turmoil. Enter our protagonist, a 9-year-old boy named Tutankhamun. Yes, that's right, 9 years old. Can you imagine being responsible for an entire civilization at that age? But here's what makes this even more fascinating. He was Akhenaten's son, which meant he was the rightful heir despite his father's controversial legacy. But pay attention to what happens next, because this is where the plot thickens. The young king doesn't really rule alone. Behind the golden throne, pulling the strings, are powerful figures, the high priest Ai and the military commander Horemheb. These men essentially control Egypt while the boy king sits on his throne. And here's the first mystery that baffles historians. Was Tutankhamun a puppet king, or did he actually have power? The evidence suggests both. Let me explain why this is so intriguing. Within the first few years of his reign, something dramatic happens. The priests orchestrate a complete religious reversal. They restore the worship of Amun, move the capital back to Thebes, and even change the young king's name from Tutankhaten, which means living image of Aten, to Tutankhamun, meaning living image of Amun. This wasn't just a name change, fellow explorers. This was a complete reinvention of identity. Imagine erasing your entire past and starting fresh. That's what happened to this young king. For the next 10 years, Tutankhamun attempts to restore peace and order. Historical records show he commissioned the building of temples, restored damaged monuments, and tried to heal the wounds his father had inflicted on Egyptian society. Some historians believe he was genuinely loved by his people, a symbol of hope after the darkness of Akhenaten's reign. But here's what's truly mysterious. Despite being king for a decade, Tutankhamun left almost no significant mark on history. Compare him to other pharaohs. Ramesses II ruled for 66 years and built monuments across Egypt. Khufu gave us the Great Pyramid. Even Hatshepsut, a female pharaoh, left incredible temples and trading expeditions. So why is Tutankhamun the most famous of them all? Hold that thought, because the answer will blow your mind. Now we arrive at the most puzzling chapter of this story. Picture this scene. The year is approximately 1323 BC. Tutankhamun is in his late teens or early 20s. Sources disagree on his exact age. He's married to Ankhesenamun, his half-sister, as was the royal custom. He has everything a pharaoh could want. And then, suddenly and without warning, he dies. But here's where this becomes a real archaeological thriller. How did a young, powerful king die so unexpectedly? This question has haunted Egyptologists for over a century, and even with modern technology, we still don't have a definitive answer. Let's examine the evidence like true archaeological detectives. When scientists first examined Tutankhamun's mummy using X-rays in 1968, they discovered something shocking, a fragment of bone inside his skull. Immediately, theories exploded. Was he murdered? Hit on the head? Assassinated in a palace coup? The murder theory seemed plausible. Think about it. A young king controlled by powerful advisors. What if those advisors wanted him out of the way? What if A or Horemheb decided they wanted the throne for themselves? After all, A did become pharaoh immediately after Tutankhamun's death. Suspicious, right? But wait, here's where modern science throws us a curveball. In 2005, a team of Egyptian scientists conducted a CT scan of the mummy. What they discovered changed everything. That bone fragment in the skull? It likely got there during the mummification process, not from a blow to the head. However, and this is crucial, the CT scan revealed something else entirely. A severe break in Tutankhamun's left leg, just above the knee. This fracture showed signs of infection, leading scientists to propose a completely different theory. Imagine this scenario. The young pharaoh is riding his chariot, perhaps hunting in the desert or leading military exercises. His chariot crashes or he falls, breaking his leg badly. In ancient Egypt, without antibiotics or modern medicine, even a simple fracture could become deadly. Bacteria enters the wound, infection spreads through his bloodstream, and within days or weeks, the king is dead from septicemia, blood poisoning. But the mysteries don't end there. Recent DNA analysis in 2010 revealed something even more intriguing. Tutankhamun suffered from multiple genetic disorders due to generations of royal inbreeding. He had a club foot, which would have made walking difficult. He also carried malaria parasites in his system. So here's the million-dollar question. Did he die from the leg fracture and infection, from malaria complications, from genetic weaknesses? Or was there indeed a conspiracy to murder him, covered up by clever physicians? The truth is, we may never know for certain. And that's what makes this mystery so captivating. Now, let's fast forward through 3,000 years of history. While mighty pharaohs like Ramesses and Seti were buried in magnificent tombs in the Valley of the Kings, Tutankhamun's grave remained mysteriously undisturbed. But here's what's absolutely mind-blowing. Why was Tutankhamun buried in such a small, seemingly insignificant tomb? Most royal tombs in the Valley of the Kings are massive complexes with multiple chambers, long corridors, and elaborate decorations. Tutankhamun's tomb. It's tiny, by comparison, just 4 small rooms. This has led archaeologists to a fascinating theory. The tomb wasn't originally meant for him at all. Evidence suggests it might have been prepared for a high-ranking official, possibly I himself. When Tutankhamun died, suddenly they needed to bury him quickly, within the traditional 70 days of mummification. So they commandeered this smaller tomb and hastily prepared it for a king. This explains something else mysterious. Why were so many items crammed into such a small space? The tomb was literally packed to the ceiling with over 5,000 objects. It was like someone was trying to fit an entire palace's worth of treasures into a closet. But here's the miracle that changed everything. Because the tomb was small, located in an inconspicuous spot, and quickly buried under debris from later construction, it remained hidden. While tomb robbers systematically looted almost every other royal burial in the Valley of the Kings, Tutankhamun's treasures slept undisturbed in the darkness. For 3 millennia, while empires rose and fell, while Egypt was conquered by Persians, Greeks, Romans, Arabs and Ottomans, while the memory of the boy king faded into obscurity. His golden treasures waited in silence. Until one fateful day in November 1922. Picture the Valley of the Kings in 1922. British archaeologist Howard Carter has been searching for tombs for years, funded by Lord Carnarvon, a wealthy English aristocrat. After 7 years of digging with little to show, Lord Carnarvon is ready to give up. This is Carter's last season, his final chance to find something significant. On November 4th, 1922, a water boy working with Carter's team makes a discovery that will change archaeology forever. While clearing debris at the base of another tomb, he strikes something with his tool, a step carved into the bedrock. Carter rushes over. They begin carefully excavating. One step leads to another, then another. Excitement builds with each layer of sand removed. Finally, they uncover a sealed doorway, and on it something incredible, the royal seal of Tutankhamun. But Carter does something that shows his remarkable discipline as an archaeologist. Instead of rushing in, he stops the excavation, sends a telegram to Lord Carnarvon in England, and waits 3 weeks for his patron to arrive. Can you imagine the suspense? Having the greatest discovery in archaeological history right in front of you, and having to wait. On November 26, 1922, with Lord Carnarvon present, Carter makes a small hole in the sealed door. He holds up a candle and peers inside. Lord Carnarvon, unable to contain his excitement, asks, "Can you see anything?" And Carter responds with words that echo through history. "Yes, wonderful things." What Carter saw that day defied imagination. In the flickering candlelight, he glimpsed gold everywhere. Golden couches, golden statues, golden chariots, boxes inlaid with precious stones, and treasures beyond counting, all perfectly preserved for over 3,000 years. The excavation took 10 years to complete. Every single item had to be carefully documented, photographed, preserved and removed. When the outer chambers were finally cleared, they reached the burial chamber itself. And here's where it gets even more spectacular. Inside the burial chamber stood 4 nested shrines, one inside the other, each covered in gold and religious texts. Inside the innermost shrine was a massive stone sarcophagus. Inside that, 3 coffins shaped like the human form, nested like Russian dolls. The first 2 were made of gilded wood, but the innermost coffin was something unprecedented, solid gold, weighing over 240 pounds. And finally, covering the mummy's head and shoulders, was the object that would become the most famous artifact in the world, the golden death mask of Tutankhamun. But here's where our story takes a dark and mysterious turn. Shortly after the tomb was opened, strange things began to happen, things that would give birth to the legend of the Pharaoh's curse. Let me share the chilling timeline of deaths that followed the discovery. First, Lord Carnarvon himself. Just 4 months after entering the tomb, in April 1923, he's bitten by a mosquito while in Cairo. The bite becomes infected. He cuts it while shaving. The infection spreads rapidly. Within days, he develops a fever, then pneumonia. On April 5, 1923, he dies at age 56. But here's what sent shivers down people's spines. At the exact moment of his death, all the lights in Cairo mysteriously went out.